Kevin McDonnell here, and welcome to the Progressive Property Podcast. So, last week was the Property Super Conference at the O2 in London. It was an amazing event. I absolutely loved it. I had the opportunity to speak there as well. But also, one of the speakers that was there was Alfie Best. Now, Alfie Best is someone who I previously had on the Progressive Property Podcast. He's got a multi-million pound property business in the UK. And while he was at the Super Conference, myself and Alfie sat down and we answered a lot of questions about all things property. Questions that you, the listeners, sent in and wanted answers to. I've been Kevin McDonnell. You've been amazing. I'm going to pass you over to me and Alfie. See you next week. Hi, Kevin McDonnell here, and I'm at the Property Super Conference 2019. And I've got with me Mr. Alfie Best. So some of you may not know Alfie Best, but Alfie has built a massive property business in the UK. He's got multiple different businesses, mainly focused around initially park homes, but he's grown to build a huge empire worth over £250 million. So it's a real pleasure to have Alfie with us. Hi, Alfie.
All good, thank you, Kevin. The pleasure's all mine.
Question 1. What is the number one criteria when deciding whether to invest in a property?
Good question. For me, it is definitely know your area, know the property that you're buying. You know, they're tick box exercises that you must do. You don't just jump in feet first without knowing, how deep the puddle is, because, you could end up to your knees.
Absolutely.
They're the facts of it. But the gut instinct of the upside value, the thing that's going to add some good value to it, like you said earlier, Kevin, look where the HMOs are, look to see if they're subduing that within there with the Article 4, look to see if there's potentially a new hospital, new college being built. They're the things that are going to make your property increase above and beyond the rate of inflation. They're in my view, that's what I would say. How about yourself, Kevin?
Absolutely. Same thing. And about your area is, when I started in property, I bought cheap. And don't buy cheap, because cheap doesn't mean valuable. Cheap means cheap. So the only way you can really know value is, I see people in London, they go and they think it's expensive here, so they go up north and they buy a house in a town they don't know, on a street they don't know, and think they might make money. But it's cheap for a reason, and you don't know the area. So knowing your area, like you said, is critical to picking the right deal. And then knowing what you're going to do with the property. So what's the end use? I see people buying a house because it's below market value. And then you say, well, what are you going to do with it? So what's the outcome? What type of tenant you put in? Like, well, I don't know, it's just below market value. Well, what's the value? It's whatever you pay for it. So now the new market value is what you paid for it. So how do you make money from it? So know your exit. Start with the end in mind. So know your area and start with the end in mind in terms of what's the use that I'm going to do. Where's the money? So can I do HMO? Can I add value? All the things around making sure that property is something that will make you money for years to come. Question 2. In the face of adversity, what keeps you going?
It's fear. Definitely fear. Because it's fear that drives me. I'm frightened of failure. And if, diversity is a big word, and it could be, is the diversity financial? Is the diversity a council problem? But to be fair with you, no matter what the problem is, it only boils down to financial in the end. Because if the problem is so unsurmountable in your mind, there's your diversity. So you've got to overcome it in your own mind to find the solution. Do you follow what I mean?
For me, I made loads of mistakes when I started, and I got myself in massive debt. And I realized when property is, if I stayed in a job, which I was in at the time, and I spent like 14 years in a corporate job, I was never going to get out of the debt in the job, because the system's not set up to make you wealthy. You make enough money to pay your mortgage and put food on the table and clothes on your back, but you don't actually get ahead. And I just did simple numbers. 25 grand a year average salary in the UK, over 40 years, you'll take home about 840 grand in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Can't even be a millionaire in 40 years working. So when you when you look at adversity and fear, the biggest fear is that you end up 65 in a job, 75 in a job where you've got no savings and nothing to support you. And that is the thing that every time a deal goes wrong, or I'm thinking about doing a bigger deal, is I just look at the alternative, which is...
Yeah, I personally think to every problem there is a solution.
Yeah.
Might not be the solution you want, but there'll be a solution. For me, it's definitely fear of failure, which makes me normally come up with a solution.
Yeah, but at the end of the day is if you don't take the risk, you're not going to get ahead as far as you could get. You're never going to achieve your full potential.
But if you don't risk, how are you going to learn for a start?
Yeah.
You know, property is like a child. If you let it run itself, it'll run amok.
Yeah.
You have to correct it, and there's no, I would say, given exact model to success. It's about the success you breed into it.
Yeah. Question 3. What are your hacks and tricks when buying a deal?
Most of the deals that I've done are normally on gut instinct. Of course, there's a model that I follow. You know, how many pictures are there? How much per pitch am I paying? What's the generation that's coming through? But above that, if it ticks all those boxes, the next thing is, do I want to buy it because there's any upside? Do you follow me? Because you've got the box standard bit. Let's just hypothetically say you're buying a house. You know the property is going to produce £2,000 a month. You know it's going to cost you £35,000 to refurb and bring back on, and you know the price of it, and that's what it's going to make on the street. But for me, it needs to be more than that, and that's the gut instinct of, are you going to get the extension? Yeah. Are you going to get the basement added? Can you add some value to it? And that's really a gut instinct I think you learn, in my view.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of property, you've got that, the gut instinct, which I go on a lot, to be honest, and you've got to follow your gut. And you did say there's obviously the overall strategy and stuff you look at. If people are starting out right now, what I'd say is invest in your local area, know your town plan. So every town's got a plan. Speak to your council, find out what they're going to be doing in the next few years. Speak to the planning department about any changes they might be having to legislation, to law that may be coming in, like HMOs, Article 4, something like that. Is it coming in my area? A really good Article 4 people are scared of for HMOs, but actually what it's done in every area that it's come into is it's increased the property price for HMOs in the area. So a good plan for if you're not in an Article 4 area is to speak to your council, see is it coming, get HMOs before they come, and your price is going to go up automatically overnight because nobody else can buy in that ring-fenced area now. But also it puts a premium for anyone who wants to buy one because they can only buy it off you. So looking for little hacks like that about how can I add value quickly through either adding value, like you said, Alfie, or through a new law change.
Oh, absolutely. Or other things. If, say, for instance, there's a new hospital being built or a new college being built, and people don't realise how much of that is happening up and down the country.
Tubes.
Right
exactly. We're in East London. With the Olympics, people bought specifically for the Olympics. But actually the real value was in the tube lines. On the high-speed rail, all that sort of stuff.
Better transport links. But all of those are add values, and you're going to get more than an uplift in the property market.
Question 4. What's the best thing currently in your life? Alfie.
Okay, so what's the best thing currently in my life? Look, a niche answer would be, to say your family, to be fair. But I don't think that's really the question that they're asking. I think what they're trying to get at is what's the best thing in your life that you've achieved. I assume that's what the question they're trying to get at. But if you're asking me what's the best thing in my life, it can only ever be my family. But if you're talking from something that I've physically done, the best thing in my life is actually seeing long-term goals come to fruition. That's the greatest success, knowing that you put that groundwork in and it's happening. That, for me.
I agree. Family obviously comes first always. But I guess the question is, in business, in life, for me it's actually today, because this is the first super conference that Progressive have run since 2013. And the last time they had it was at Wembley Stadium in 2013.
Okay.
And it was my first ever event at Progressive. And I sat in the audience in one of the back rows. And 6 years later, in about 2 hours' time, I'm going to be up on stage sharing my journey. So I've come full circle, and it's what you, like you said, achieving your goal.
Yeah.
And my goal wasn't even to, when I sat there, my goal wasn't to get on stage. My goal was to get out of my job, get out of debt. So I've come further than my goal. But it's
and have you readjusted your goals now?
Oh God, yeah. I think people set goals, and actually, I used to work in construction in a company called Lang O'Rourke, and I was a quality manager. And they have a business plan. It's a £5 billion a year business. You know business plans. They change all the time.
Yeah, of course.
And in property, your goals are really your business plan. And we should be looking at them every 3 to 6 months, really.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And amending, so they're always changing. And
see, people use the word property all the time, but it's actually a business.
it is.
And by changing your model, it's actually showing your business is successful because it's actually adapting.
Yes.
And the more a business adapts, the more property adapts, the more successful it will become.
Yeah.
So I actually think seeing and achieving your goals come to fruition are pretty well some of the best things you can do.
But you've got to keep setting new goals. Keep checking where you're at, keep setting new goals, because you don't realise how far you can come in 3 to 4 years. And then initially you set goals and you think of where I want to be in 10 years, but actually you can achieve it a lot quicker than you'd imagine by doing the right steps, following the process.
100%.
So, question 5. What's the best advice for someone just starting a business?
The best advice for somebody to start in business, do it. Don't waste time.
Yeah.
Don't sit there pondering, can I, should I? Get on with it.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Don't do it half-heartedly. Both feet in and do it.
I 100% agree, because I spent years thinking about it and procrastinating about it and doing it in the wrong way. So start. The procrastination bit, so half-hearted stuff, is there's 2 types of procrastination, and I see this with some people. One is they procrastinate and don't start, which was me for a long time, and then there's positive procrastination. So they start, but they make themselves feel like they're busy by doing business cards and writing a plan and all this stuff, but they're not actually doing any viewings, they're not putting in any offers. So
and what they're not doing is then gaining experience where they need that experience in that field by meeting the agents and also building up relationships.
Yes. So when you say start, is actually get out there and do the things that put money in your pocket. As much as the things that actually take money out.
Not every business that you do, not every venture you do is successful, and we've all shared that pain. But pain is up to you to overcome.
Yeah.
Just do it.
And Rob Moore says, start now, get perfect later. Because and a lot of people that try to be perfect before they do something because they're worried about failure. Yeah. But actually not starting is you're not going to get what you want.
I'll be honest, I genuinely thought that I started perfect. I realised later I wasn't.
Yeah. So I was the same. Question 6. What is the best form of marketing in property?
Best form of marketing by a mile is sublime marketing, by a mile. And I'll give you an instance. You can go down the road of, online marketing, and we all know that reaches a massive wide audience. But sublime marketing is not selling something to somebody, but whets their appetite enough just to be, what is it? And the more you're not selling it, the more they want it.
Yes.
Sublime advertising is just, how can I put it? I really cannot tell you how powerful it is.
Sell through, not to.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. Well, yes, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Same answer. Question 7. What's the scariest thing that's ever happened in business or property?
The scariest thing was having to move out of my house and sleep in the van. Not knowing where that was going to end. And living with yourself at the time, knowing that you are or perceive yourself as a failure. That's, for me, And how I overcome it was I persevered, I followed through, and I adapted. Changed the business plan, moved out of my house, rented the house out, you know, and there's an old saying, having to is your master. If you have to do it, he's a great master. Sometimes when you have to do something, that's the master that will show you the light.
Yeah, 100% agree. Because for me, a lot of people listening to this will probably know my story from Progressive, but Alfie doesn't. When I started, I bought 3 properties off plan in Eastern Europe. Actually, I went to the Excel Centre for the property show and got offered this like £1,000 down payment, pay over staged payments. And one in Estonia never even got built. One in Bulgaria got built, but then it was built by the local mafia, and they took everything out of it afterwards because they were the management company as well.
Yeah.
And we voted them out, and they took everything. Like they took the aircon units, they took the kitchens, the bathrooms, they cleaned everything out. So for me, the scary moment was waking up realizing that I had 135 grand's worth of property with payments to be made that I hadn't finished making, but I actually had no property to get the income back on or even sell. And again, I kept going, but what I did was I realized that I was never going to earn my way out of that debt in the jobs. I had to, the thing that put me in debt, property, was the only thing that could get me out of debt.
Yes.
So I had to keep going. And I came and I paid for property education, and that was scary. But the interesting thing, you spoke about needing to do it. Before I ever lost my money in Eastern Europe, I had been at an event similar to the one we're at today, and I was offered training for £1,800, and I was comfortable, and I thought, well, how hard can it be to buy a house? So I didn't do the training. And then when I came back, I spent over 25 grand on training, because my only thought process was, if I'm going to go bankrupt at 135 or 160, what's the difference?
Yeah, there's no difference.
But that was the best decision I ever made, because I learned how to do it the right way. And I always say to everyone, the only thing I did right in my first 10 years was that I kept going. And if you keep going at something for long enough, I don't think you can fail.
I completely agree. Look, perseverance is the winner to every situation. Don't give in. Don't give in. Look, you'll come across people more talented than you, smarter than you, wiser than you. You're going to come across that. But what you have, what we've all got, if you can just bring it out of it in yourself, is perseverance. And perseverance actually raises your awareness, your savviness of around the property and the market that you're on. So, you know.
Jim Rohn, I love the American guy Jim Rohn. He's died now, but he had a saying that I always remember and use whenever I've got a challenge, is if there's somebody better than you and they're getting 3 deals out of 10, what I'll do is I'll beat them and get 4, because they'll do 10 viewings and get 3 deals, but I'll do 40 viewings and get 4. So you just got to work harder.
100%.
Question 8. When you are massively stressed and overwhelmed, what hacks do you have to overcome it?
I'm massively stressed and overwhelmed. In a good way or a bad way?
I leave the house, because usually my wife causes it. I'm kidding. That's not recorded, is it? Right.
You were lucky the camera was on me then when you said that. Only trouble is the camera's on me and my wife thinks I said it. I can answer that really simply. How do you deal with really difficult, stressful situations? There aren't any. There really aren't any. I boxed for a fair while in my life, and everything that I did was quick reactions. Block, jab, block, throw right hand. Everything was quick. Then I've started to train as a pilot for a helicopter, and it's completely the opposite. When something's going wrong, don't overreact. And that has taken a lot. Now, I had a helicopter crash in, I think it was in November last year. And again, I remember I was overreacting, just panic. If you watch any airline pilot and the plane, is in trouble, they go through the manual. They go through and what I would say is, don't stress, don't panic. Take your time, find the right solution. Don't panic in a stressful situation.
Absolutely agree. I think when you panic, what you end up doing it without realizing is making the wrong decision too quickly.
You make the fear worse.
Yeah, because you haven't really thought through the best solution. And sometimes it's nearly good to, if it's in an office or something and you've just got bad news about a big deal or whatever, is just leave, get some fresh air, speak to somebody close to you, a business advisor, a property advisor, your mentor, whoever it may be. Get some advice before you overreact or over panic.
What I always try to do though is blame somebody else.
yeah. It's always somebody else.
It wasn't my fault. No, I'm only kidding. The best thing to do, and I mean this genuinely, if the issue has come from yourself, accept it.
Yeah.
Because the quicker people see that you're accepting a mistake you made yourself, the quicker they're quicker to help you.
Yeah, 100%. And I spent years blaming the people at the Excel Centre for the property I bought abroad. It was their fault, and blaming the banks for lending me the money, and blaming the mafia for building it and ripping it out and everything.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I had to wake up one morning and look in the mirror and think, well, actually, I'm the one that decided to buy them. I'm the one that took that choice, took that step. And as soon as you actually own up and step up to your own choices, you can put them behind you and move on.
Well, you learn from them.
You learn from them.
It's as simple as that. You learn from them.
Question 9. Do you think Brexit will have an effect on rental prices?
I'd be foolhardy to say no, but I really don't know. And the answer is that I say I don't know. The pound at this moment in time is so undervalued against the dollar and the euro. It's, artificially undervalued. But I actually think that is a great question. We have 66 million people in this country. We have a housing problem. I cannot see that housing problem being solved with the policies the government have in place at this moment in time. And house prices in London have fallen, especially on the top end. But rental prices, even though they've fallen away slightly, they're pretty much solid. And Brexit is as hard as it's going to be. So that's a great question.
For me, it's down to, like you said, the 66 million people in the country, because it's about supply and demand. And I remember when I bought my first couple of houses and I told my mum, I stopped telling her stuff now, because she'd say, well, what if you can't find a tenant? And I thought, well, just because your son's bought a house, people aren't going to go live in trees.
Yeah.
And Brexit or not, there was the millennium bug, there was the biggest crash in history in 07, 08, there was all those things. Yeah. And Brexit's another one. And if there is a dip, Brexit will be forgotten about 3, 4, 5 years' time, just like the millennium bug has been in the last recession. House prices are higher now than the biggest recession in history. Supply and demand, 66 million people are on a small island. The population is due to increase by about 8 million over the next 10 years. People need places to live. And like I said, the government, they're not solving the problem.
Well, what they're trying to do is use a solution, but that isn't being filtered down to the councils.
Yeah.
Because the councils aren't actually...
can't cope.
Well, they're not following through with government policy, like allowing people to build on brownfield sites. And I know 2 or 3 brownfield sites with buildings on that have been refused planning. You think, wow, I thought you were, supposed to be proactive on that.
Final question. What is your defining trait that makes you successful?
I'm not sure about yourself, Kevin. I can only speak for me. But for me, the defining trait that has made me successful is just sheer persistence. That's all.
I would say, again, same thing, the defining trait that made me successful. I'm no different to anybody else. I don't even consider myself successful, because I'm sitting next to you, and I'm successful in terms of where I'm at, but I'm nowhere near where you've got to.
Yeah, but
and we're in different fields, I guess. But
well, what I would say is success is all in the mind.
Yeah.
Because I know people that are a lot more successful for me, but they might not be as wealthy. But they're a hell of a lot more contented. They live a better life than I do. They don't work till 11 o'clock at night. And genuinely, I never finished till 12 last night. But the truth is, You know, if the question they're asking is what makes somebody successful, well, the thing that's made me successful, where I believe that to be financially, that's just the persistence. And there are people that are an awful lot more successful than me financially, and thank God there is, because if those people weren't there, we all wouldn't have another little ladder to climb.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that an entrepreneur, if that's what we are, has to deal with and challenge with is, I think that's built into people, that the reason we've got as successful as we are is because we're never happy where we are.
Yeah, of course.
And it keeps, so you don't really see that you may be successful in other people's eyes, but in your own you want to take the next step and the next step and the next step.
Well, when you do, I'll use the word a great deal. But for me, I don't do great deals. I genuinely don't. What I tend to do is now, I used to do great deals, I now do fits. And what I mean by that is that what I'm buying fits with what we're doing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they complement each other, which then makes it more successful.
Yeah.
Of course. What, even though it's last?
Yeah.
Because then wouldn't it be last? You asked it first. I'm joking with you. I'm joking with you. Because you did say you wanted to ask the first question again. But then I was thinking, well, it can't be the first question again because you're now asking it last. You've gone red.
Is that so we asked the question to ourselves?
Gone red.
Is that so we asked the first question to ourselves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kidding with you, Gordon.